"Don't worry, sir. I'll stay with you until someone comes," the young man said gently, his voice calm but assured. He wasn't making a scene, wasn't drawing attention, just offering comfort to the elderly veteran who had collapsed near Gate 17. Nathan Price didn't hesitate. He gave up his seat, missed his flight, and remained seated beside the man, quietly, for over 20 minutes. Passengers continued about their business, but 20 minutes later something strange happened. TSA agents began clearing the entire terminal. No reasons given, no public announcements, just quiet, coordinated movement, and then a military convoy rolled directly onto the tarmac. If you believe that small decisions echo the loudest, type respect in the comments. Nathan, 27, had been headed to the most important opportunity of his life, his first ever in-person interview with a federal engineering firm in Seattle. It was the result of 3 long years of effort, endless applications, 6 months of background checks, and countless late nights studying for technical assessments. For him, this wasn't just an interview. It was the culmination of everything he'd worked toward since college. He was minutes from boarding at Atlanta International when he heard the sound. A heavy thud, not loud, but unmistakable. The kind of sound that silences instinct more than ears. Around Gate 17, some passengers stirred. A few heads turned, but most went back to their phones. Meetings to catch, flights to board. No one moved. But Nathan did. He spotted the older man slumped in a chair, visibly trembling. His hand clenched a leather satchel against his chest, knuckles white with tension. His breathing was shallow, one foot twisted awkwardly under his seat. His other hand gripped a worn chain, military dog tags, pressed into his palm. Nathan didn't overthink. He simply acted. He dropped his bag beside an empty seat and moved quickly, but without panic, to the man's side. "Sir, are you okay?" he asked, kneeling beside him, keeping his voice calm and steady. The man's lips moved, but no sound came. His gaze, pale blue and somehow piercing even in his state, locked onto Nathan's face. Nathan flagged down an airport employee. "Medical assistance. Now!" His voice firm, authoritative. She nodded, speaking urgently into her shoulder radio. Turning back, Nathan slipped off his blazer, the very one he'd chosen for this career-defining interview, and gently folded it behind the man's head like a pillow. "I'll stay with you, sir, until help comes." The announcement for final boarding of Flight 2347 echoed in the background. Nathan's group had already been called, but he didn't move. Instead, he loosened the man's collar, gave him space to breathe, and held one steady hand on the man's shoulder. "Your flight," the man whispered finally, voice dry and faint. "Don't miss it." Nathan smiled, not out of politeness, but sincerely. "I'll catch the next one. There's always another flight." He didn't mention that his ticket was non-refundable, or that it had taken 3 months of scrimping on lunches to afford it, or that this interview was the only one he'd landed in nearly a year. He stayed. Within minutes, airport medics arrived with a squeaky gurney and began assessing vitals. Blood pressure, oxygen levels, standard protocol. They prepped him for hospital transport. But the old man raised his hand slowly and grasped the medic's wrist. "Just let me breathe a moment," he said. "Not the hospital, not yet." Despite his frailty, the tone was commanding. Not rude, not loud, just final. The medics exchanged uncertain glances but nodded, respecting his wishes. They placed an oxygen mask on him and backed off to consult. TSA agents had gathered. They lingered near the perimeter, watchful, waiting. One agent spoke quietly into a shoulder radio, her eyes fixed on the old man. Nathan stayed put. He retrieved a water bottle from his bag, added a straw, and offered it gently. Then something shifted. A TSA agent approached and politely asked for the man's ID. With unsteady fingers, the man handed over his wallet, along with the dog tags he'd been gripping. The agent looked at them, paused, and then stepped back with sudden urgency. She radioed again, this time in a clipped, hushed tone. Almost instantly, the entire atmosphere of the terminal changed. Boarding at all adjacent gates halted. Announcements ceased. Passengers were calmly redirected to other concourses, and then, from multiple entry points, agents in black suits arrived. Not TSA, not airport security, government. They moved with precision, deliberate, practiced, almost military in their coordination. A voice came through Nathan's earbuds from one of them. "We need this area cleared now. Security protocol." "He's with me," Nathan said without hesitation, gesturing to the old man. "I'm staying." "We know," the agent replied, "and we need you both to remain exactly where you are." Out the window, a dark convoy of 6 government vehicles rolled up silently on the tarmac. No lights, no sirens, just clean, choreographed authority. A black SUV with federal plates stopped directly at Gate 17. 4 soldiers stepped out, uniformed, serious, efficient. Then, from the back seat, a decorated general stepped into view. His posture was precise, his medals gleaming, 4 silver stars across his shoulders. He walked straight into the empty terminal. Nathan stayed seated. When the general reached them, he knelt before the old man and saluted sharply. "Sir, I'm here," he said. "We have transport standing by." The old man nodded slightly. His shoulders relaxed, just a little. Nathan's mouth opened, but he said nothing. "Do you know who you stayed with, son?" the general asked. "No, sir," Nathan replied honestly. The general looked back at the old man and nodded as if confirming something. "This man led operations that don't appear in our history books," he said. "His code name isn't taught at West Point. But people across 3 continents are free today because of what he did." The words were quiet, but they carried weight. The old man turned to Nathan. "You didn't have to stay," he said. "Most wouldn't have." "It felt like the right thing," Nathan said simply. "It was," the general confirmed. "And that kind of instinct can't be taught. If you believe that the quietest people often carry the loudest battles, type silent valor in the comments." With care and dignity, the general helped the old man to his feet. Soldiers stepped into position, not aggressively, but with calm assurance. Nathan stood aside, unsure what to do. "You gave up a flight, an interview," the general said, looking at Nathan again. "Most wouldn't have." "I just did what felt right," Nathan replied. "Anyone would have." "That's where you're wrong," the general said. "We saw how many walked past before you stopped." Moments later, an aide approached Nathan with a heavy envelope. Inside, a formal thank you letter from the Department of Defense, signed by the general himself. A gold-edged card granting expedited federal clearance privileges, and a handwritten note. "Character isn't found on a resume, but it builds one. The right people notice today. General M. Harrington." Then quietly, "We can arrange transport to Seattle." Nathan shook his head. "Thank you, sir. I'll wait for the next flight." The general nodded. "As you wish." As the convoy departed, several TSA agents came forward, one by one, shaking Nathan's hand silently. No applause, no attention, just quiet respect. Later at the gate, a new ticket was printed, first class, no extra charge. The agent simply said, "Thank you, sir." He boarded without fanfare, but passengers noticed him now, watched him differently. In his seat pocket, someone had placed a challenge coin, military issue. One side had an unknown insignia. The other side read, "When no one is watching is when it matters most." He slipped it into his pocket without a word. The story never made the news. No tweets, no headlines, just a quiet ripple in the lives of those who were there. But a month later, Nathan received an unexpected email from the same federal engineering firm he'd missed the interview with. "Mr. Price, circumstances of your missed interview have come to our attention. We would like to reschedule at your convenience." At the office, he learned a photo had circulated internally, him kneeling beside the man, one hand offering water, the other steady on his shoulder. The caption beneath it: "This is what readiness looks like." The interview was different this time, less technical, more human, more about values under pressure. 2 weeks later, he was offered a role, with a higher clearance level than the one he'd missed. 3 months into the job, Nathan received a small package through internal mail. No return address. Inside, a perfectly folded American flag, smaller than ceremonial size, one that had flown, briefly, on the antenna of a government vehicle the day he stayed still. Tucked inside the fold was a note: "For staying still when the rest moved." MTB. Only then did Nathan learn the man's name. Colonel Mason T. Burke, a Cold War shadow operative, a man who shaped history quietly and walked through airports unnoticed. Nathan placed the flag on his desk at home. Not displayed, not explained, just there. A quiet reminder: subscribe to Ironheart Stories. Sometimes, missing a flight is exactly how you arrive where you were meant to be.